The National Desk, America's News Now. No deal. The default clock ticks down, and Republicans are urging President Biden to come to them before time runs out.
Now less than 10 days from a default, Joe Biden has yet to offer or accept our sensible solution that raises the debt ceiling and addresses our debt crisis.
Activity at the border is slowing, but it hasn't stopped, and the House Republicans are now taking a further look.
The Biden open borders policy is clearly allowing many dangerous gang members, terrorists, and criminals into our country, and he doesn't seem to care about the resulting damage.
And artificial intelligence is no longer science fiction. The debate has begun whether it is good or bad for us. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Eugene Ramirez. Another day goes by now. Still no deal in place to avert a potential default on American-held debt. Negotiations continued today at the Capitol, but White House negotiators left around 2 p.m. after about just 2 hours of talks. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy telling fellow Republicans at a closed-door meeting this morning that they are still far from reaching a bipartisan agreement. That sentiment shared by one of the negotiators, Congressman Garrett Graves.
We're still far apart until this administration is willing to recognize that they are having record spending, record deficits, and record taxes. Then we're not going to be able to come together. We are demanding a different trajectory for this country. You're putting the next generation in jeopardy.
Now, Democrats say Republicans aren't yielding enough on their demands and that the far right is in control, keeping a deal from being made.
You know, our concern is that we keep getting closer, that Republican so-called moderates, can work with us on this. And, they give, happy moderate talk in interviews, but they have shown no willingness to compromise and to govern and to avoid this catastrophe.
This as lawmakers stare down that June 1st deadline. But some Republicans questioned that date given by the Treasury Secretary as the earliest the U.S. could find itself in default.
I don't believe that the first of the month is a real deadline. I don't understand why we're not making Janet Yellen show her work.
We do have money coming in. She'll extend it, but right now she's using June 1st. Everybody knows that's false.
Speaker Kevin McCarthy says that he would not support a short-term debt limit extension if he and the White House can't reach a final deal, nor would he support a spending freeze as proposed yesterday by the president and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Wall Street warning of dire consequences if a debt ceiling deal isn't reached soon. Financial experts predicting the S&P 500 could dip by more than 40% if the U.S. economy experiences a long-term debt default. A 40% crash would bring the markets back to where they were at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. On to the 2024 elections now, and a new announcement coming soon. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis set to launch his 2024 presidential campaign tomorrow, happening during a live audio event with Elon Musk on the Twitter Spaces function of the Twitter platform. The Associated Press reporting that Musk confirms DeSantis will make a, quote, quite an announcement and participate in a live Q&A. Musk, however, said he is not endorsing any candidate right now. Recent polls show DeSantis second only to former President Trump in a hypothetical Republican primary, though trailing by a wide margin. Now, we're learning some new developments. Security barrier near the White House last night. Officials believe the 19-year-old driver did that intentionally. They say Cy Varsith Candela of Chesterfield, Missouri, exited the rental truck carrying a Nazi flag and told investigators that he wanted to take over the government and kill President Biden. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre saying that the president is, quote, relieved that no one was injured last night. Right now, Candula is in custody facing multiple charges, including threatening to kill or harm a president, vice president, or family member. Starting today, all Department of Homeland Security officers under the DHS umbrella will be required to wear body cams. Now, this includes U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the Secret Service, and the Federal Protective Services. CBP officers and Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers already wear those body cams. They started wearing them as part of a pilot program since 2021. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is saying this new requirement is aimed at securing the public's trust. On Capitol Hill, a renewed focus on what to do about the southern border now. While the end of Title 42 did not bring that surge of migrants that was expected, there remains a stalemate when it comes to immigration legislation, as some Republicans focus on crimes committed by undocumented migrants. The National Desk's Christine Frizzell reports.
It hasn't even been a year since 20-year-old Kayla Hamilton was found strangled to death in her room. The suspect, 16 years old at the time, an undocumented migrant and MS-13 gang member from El Salvador.
I don't want any other parent to live the nightmare that I am living.
On Capitol Hill, her mother blamed an unsecured border that allowed the 16-year-old, who had been arrested but released to a relative, to roam freely in a country struggling to reach consensus on border policy.
An acceptance of weakness that has turned public parks, police stations, and school gymnasiums into makeshift shelters.
GOP lawmakers focusing on crime, with 212 people on the terror watch list caught between ports of entry in the last 2 years, compared with just 14 while President Trump was in office.
In my professional assessment, the U.S. Border Patrol has lost our ability to know who and what is entering our homeland.
The former head of U.S. Customs and Border Protection says with so many border agents forced to work on processing, much of the border is left unsecured, leading to more and more repeat offenders.
Once you get into a country illegally, a part of the 1.7 million total gotaways, this secretary has said that you're not going to be a priority, that being here illegally is not enough to remove you. So they're going to keep trying because their chances are they're going to succeed.
Democrats once again painting the hearing as pandering to Republican grievances.
They don't want to solve the problem. That's not worth anything to them politically. They want to stoke fear.
Now, I should say a bipartisan group of lawmakers did introduce new immigration legislation today. It's called the Dignity Act, and it provides for billions of dollars for border security, but also the establishment of humanitarian campuses for asylum seekers to stay to have their claims heard within 60 days. And allows those who have been here for 5 years to remain for another 7 if they work and pay additional taxes and small fees, which would help pay for some of these other programs, Eugene.
As far as the numbers, Christine, they have gone down dramatically since the end of Title 42. Did we hear about that today?
Yeah, you know, Democrats really honing in on that because it was unexpected. And it turns out more people came to our borders either to ask for asylum or to try to cross before the end of that public health policy. Democrats say Republicans are simply using the hearing to fearmonger. Republicans say those lower numbers are still far higher than they were under President Trump.
Christine Frizzell at the Capitol. Thanks so much. New today, an investigation by Illinois Attorney General's office finding 451 Catholic clergy members sexually abused at least 1,997 children all across the state of Illinois. The number is more than 4 times the 103 abusers the church named prior to the start of this investigation in 2018. Investigators looked at decades of complaints from the 1950s to 2019. Well, this report now names all of the abusers. A statement from the Attorney General reading, quote, "These perpetrators may never be held accountable in a court of law, but by naming them here, the intention is to provide a public accounting and a measure of healing to survivors who have long suffered in silence." The National Transportation Safety Board looking into all those runway near misses that we've been telling you about here on the National Desk. Now, so far, the NTSB says there have been 365 runway incursions this year. That means an aircraft, vehicle, or person was on the runway at the wrong time.
These events should serve as a wake-up call. The sobering truth is that it only takes one. Any of these events could have had devastating consequences.
Officials say there's an up. When compared to last year, the U.S. hasn't had a fatal commercial airline crash since 2009. A warning from the U.S. Surgeon General now. Social media can be dangerous to young people. According to this new report, social media introduces a, quote, profound risk of harm to kids and teenagers despite some potential benefits. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy concludes there's not enough evidence to know if social media is sufficiently safe, even though up to 95% of 13 to 17-year-olds are on social media. He recommends parents take some steps like creating a family social media plan, designating tech-free zones, and also leading by example. He's also advising that kids and teens reach out for help if needed, create boundaries, and be cautious about what they share. The Surgeon General's advisory also calls for action from policymakers, tech companies, and researchers. Arkela Gaskins has more on that.
The U.S. Surgeon General says we need to protect kids from social media, and we need to do it now.
This is the defining public health issue of our time. Parents are in a very difficult situation here, and I hear this from parents all the time. They are having to deal with a technology that is rapidly evolving.
On Tuesday, the U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy released an advisory saying social media is a leading cause of the teen mental health crisis. The report cites a study showing teens who spent more than 3 hours per day on social media doubled the risk of having depression or anxiety. Murthy says it's time for swift and decisive action.
This is too much to place on the shoulders of parents alone.
School districts in Washington State, Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and California suing big tech companies for harming children. Utah now requiring kids under 18 to get parental consent before creating a social media account. Montana taking it a step further, issuing the first complete state ban on TikTok.
What we know now, after years of this uncontrolled experiment on our children, is that social media is an extended time on social media can be really harmful to many young people.
TikTok hitting back, suing the state of Montana this week, saying the new law violates the First Amendment. The social media company also in hot water at the federal level as Congress weighs a bipartisan effort to ban the immensely popular Chinese-owned app.
Also on Tuesday, the White House announcing their plan to protect kids from online harm. A newly created task force will develop guidance for families and make policy recommendations as the administration pushes Congress to take action. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Right now, Anheuser-Busch is offering to buy back unsold cases of expired Bud Light. This following calls for a boycott from outraged conservatives when personalized Bud Light cans were sent to a transgender social media influencer whose post with those cans went viral. Sales of Bud Light have fallen for each of the last 6 weeks, and their stock price is down 11% over that same period. Coming up on the National Desk, a protective order has former President Donald Trump watching his words. What he can and can't say. We'll explain. Then many Americans take multivitamins. What a major new study finds about the impact of taking them daily. And Amazon workers planning to walk off the job. What they're protesting when we're back in 90 seconds. Former President Donald Trump appearing virtually hearing in the criminal case investigating hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels. Trump had pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to hide those payments. The judge reviewing a protective order for much of the evidence turned over by prosecutors. Now, that order prohibits Trump from publicizing much of the material, but it's not a full-fledged gag order, which means that he is still able to speak about this case while he campaigns. Trump's lawyers have filed a request to have the case moved to federal court. A judge will consider that request at another hearing next month. Trump's criminal trial right now is scheduled for March 25th. And in another controversy involving the former president, the Trump Organization has been subpoenaed for information about Trump's business dealings in foreign countries dating back to the year 2017. The New York Times reports the subpoena is part of the investigation into Trump's handling of classified documents. Investigators are interested in deals involving Saudi Arabia and some other countries, looking into possible connections between them and those classified documents. Trump claims he's entitled to have those documents and that he did not have to hand them over to the National Archives. A group of Chinese citizens is suing Florida over a law that limits the real estate options in that state. Florida passed a new law that will ban Chinese citizens from buying property within 10 miles of military installations. That law also applies to citizens of Cuba, Venezuela, Syria, Iran, Russia, and North Korea. Well, this lawsuit claims that restriction unfairly equates Chinese people with the actions of the country's government. Layoffs are hitting the Magic Kingdom again. CNN reporting now that Disney plans to cut more than 2,500 employees in this latest round of layoffs, and workers are being notified right now this week. Now, this would be the third wave of layoffs for the company. The first two rounds were in March and April, cutting about 4,000 jobs in Disney's entertainment division, as well as theme parks and ESPN, which is owned by Disney. It's unclear which employees would be impacted in this new round of layoffs. A super typhoon has Guam in its bullseye right now, prompting President Biden to approve an emergency declaration. Forecasters say the storm is bringing winds equivalent to a Category 5 hurricane, as well as torrential rains and life-threatening storm surge. Anyone not living in a fully concrete house there is being urged to move, get out. And residents of flood-prone areas have been ordered to evacuate to some higher elevations. Forecasters say it could be the most powerful storm to hit Guam in decades. It's expected to hit the territory in just a few hours. Meantime, an active volcano threatening Mexico right now, where millions of people are being warned that they may have to evacuate. This volcano is about 45 miles southeast of Mexico City. And as you see here, ash has been spewing into nearby towns, dusting cars, streets, and homes. Dozens of schools have shut down, and flights through Mexico City have been impacted as well. The volcano was dormant for decades. That was until it erupted in 1994, and since then, it has rumbled on a regular basis. Today, the family of a Colorado man killed by police while experiencing a mental health crisis has been awarded $19 million in a settlement, along with some changes to officer training. 22-year-old Christian Glass, you see him here, was shot and killed. These are his parents, actually. But Glass was shot and killed in June 2022 after his car got stuck in a mountain town, and he called for roadside assistance. Now, as part of that settlement, Clear Creek County and the state of Colorado will improve crisis response and intervention. The man's parents hope the changes will prevent another family from suffering a similar loss. Taking a multivitamin daily can slow down age-related memory decline. That's according to a new study. More than 3,500 adults over the age of 60 participated in this 3-year study. Part of the group took a supplement, while the others took a placebo. Well, by the end of the first year, memory improved for people taking the multivitamin. Researchers at Columbia University and Brigham and Women's Hospital say the improvement amounts to about 3 years of age-related memory decline. With rapidly developing artificial intelligence technologies, many, from developers to lawmakers, and some of you at home right now might be questioning the benefits. Do they outweigh the risks? Well, we're looking at all angles of this controversial topic in a series of reports for you.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, is becoming ever more prevalent in society. Its capabilities are already changing the way we live and interact, and these are some of the good ways AI is impacting our world.
The rise of artificial intelligence in everyday life is making daily tasks and chores quicker and more efficient. Letting AI take over your responsibilities can help reclaim your time.
We humans can focus on what makes life the most fun. We can focus on social connections. We can focus on the activities that give us the most meaning.
A survey of 65 experts published in the journal PLOS ONE finds that AI could automate up to 40% of domestic tasks within 10 years. That includes daily activities like cleaning, cooking, even gardening.
Alexa, remind me to take out.
I'll remind you Sunday at 8 p.m.
Virtual assistants like Apple's Siri, Amazon's Alexa, and Google Assistant have been answering questions, keeping calendars, and setting reminders for us for years. AI technology is now helping healthcare professionals achieve better outcomes for patients and maximize their time by letting it handle the paperwork.
That's where the assist comes in real time, rather than, a busy primary care physician or another specialist having to comb through, reams of medical records that are digitalized. the computer could be able to do that and then present something in a timely way at the time of the patient visit, and then make a suggestion.
And busy teachers are letting AI lighten the grading load in subjects where there's a definitive answer.
Let's say you teach an algebra class, but there's a basic math topic that's not taught in your class, but you've got some students that just don't have that grasp of that beginning topic, so they're struggling in algebra. You could actually point AI to help you build some just simple content that you can then include in your instruction. You know, you're not having to write it from scratch or editing it.
And some are modeling artificial intelligence to predict crime. Researchers at the University of Chicago developed an algorithm to forecast crime by learning patterns in time and geographic locations. It predicted future crimes 1 week in advance with 90% accuracy in one study. Those are the benefits experts are pointing to. Coming up in part 2 of our series, we look at how and why some say AI can also be harmful. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Dee Dee Gatton.
What you need to know about the growth of AI is the focus of a streaming town hall happening this week. You don't want to miss it. Tune in to thenationaldesk.com on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern for that. Coming up, why Amazon employees in Washington State are planning to walk off the job. We're back at first. Quick break. The National Desk is taking the pulse of America, and we start in Idaho now with reaction to yesterday's arraignment of murder suspect Brian Coburn.
It was a real eerie feeling. First of all, I don't know, it just like something eerie feeling came over me. And I said, we don't know like if it was him or not, so I can't like assume that he's guilty. But it was definitely an eerie feeling.
Charlene Lichty lives nearby. Like many others across the country, she's been following this case closely.
I was like surprised that they stayed silent. I don't know. I feel like it was not the right thing to do. Like at least have the decency to put in a plea, whether it be guilty or not guilty.
Others in the community say the intense media scrutiny in the immediate days after the murders has quieted down since, but it's still very much on their minds.
I think it's calmed down in the sense that, there's obviously not as much media constantly coming through town when we come in to do grocery shopping or whatnot, but it's still something that's talked about through the community and everybody's, have you heard anything else? Have you heard this? Have you heard that?
The trial is now tentatively set for October 2nd. Koberger, meanwhile, is due back in court on June 9th, where a judge will hear arguments over the motions over a gag order in this case and whether cameras should be allowed in the court during trial.
The Nevada Triangle has been generating headlines for years. It's been reported by TV news stations, magazines, podcasts, and even part of the story is the number of planes missing in this 25,000 square mile area that connects Fresno, Reno, and Las Vegas. Those stories lead us to believe that 2,000 planes have vanished in this triangle over the past 50 years.
Nowhere close to 2,000. That's why I challenged that number of 2,000.
Marty Bevel is president and owner of Fresno Flight Training in Madera. He admits the triangle covers the High Sierra, which presents a challenge for all pilots.
When you take airplanes in higher elevation airports, you lose horsepower in the thinner air. You lose wing lift because of the thinner air. You lose acceleration capabilities. You lose a lot of things in the higher elevations.
Located in the heart of South Lake Union, Amazon has set this city on fire. It's brought hundreds of thousands of jobs right to Seattle and weathered the COVID-19 storm.
I started in the middle of the pandemic, so I didn't get a chance to meet people and connect with people.
In an email sent to employees, some workers say they're frustrated with the tech giant.
People are not happy about, coming back to work.
It's kind of hard for people who really moved out of the city and who have responsibilities.
According to the Washington Post, the action hinges on at least 1,000 Seattle employees agreeing to participate in the one-day walkout. In a statement from the company, a spokesperson says, "We respect our employees' rights to express their opinions."
I think it's just a new change. People were becoming comfortable, working from home.
Amazon has cut roughly 27,000 jobs since November, affecting workers in almost every department. Meta and Microsoft also part of the mass layoffs happening at tech companies across the country.
The National Desk is back in 90 seconds. Everyone loves a freebie. Listen to this. Graduating donut lovers, Krispy Kreme is offering their congratulations to you. For high school seniors across the country, the donut chain is offering a Dough-ploma for your achievement. Tomorrow, participating Krispy Kreme shops will give all graduating seniors a free dozen glazed donuts. You can redeem the sweet treat by wearing your cap and gown to the shop, or you can simply show your class ring or your student ID. That's going to do it for us right now. Join me tonight for the evening edition of the National Desk at 10 p.m. Eastern. The Fact Check team breaks down the renewed push for reparations. For updates anytime, visit us online at thenationaldesk.com. Thanks so much for watching.